Hey there, I'm Maddie from Luxury Playstyle, and I wanted to give everybody a little bit of an introduction to kind of the design thinking we had in crafting our newest elemental ring coins for L5R. Obviously, if you haven't heard of Luxury Playstyle, we're a shop that's trying to focus on creating tokens that are elevated a little bit more than you'd expect from, typical acrylic stuff you get out of the box, that sort of stuff. The sort of tokens that you'd be proud to show off that might be great tournament prizes, and in general, just something that's wonderful to look at and that you actually might even want to collect and not just play with. And we've been focusing on the game Legend of the Five Rings. This is not necessarily the collectible card game. This back obviously is from the old game. But I have it here kind of to show you kind of how the rings evolved in the game. Here they're just the idea of them is just very simple arcane rings, essentially. It evolved into the Legend of the Five Rings card game that, even more so than its predecessor, emphasizes these elemental rings. I mean, they are central to the game. They are part of the game. They are involved in every turn of this game. Whereas in old 5R, they weren't, they were important, but they weren't as central to the entire design of the game. In the collectible card game, you had art like this kind of representing the rings, right? You had this bright, white, airy air ring that kind of evokes the power and majesty of that ring. The fire, obviously, you can almost feel the heat there, right? It's bright orange, flaming. It's like, without a doubt, the ring of fire. Even when you start looking at, say, things like the false rings, the art they use for that, right? You've got the bright blues, you've got the oranges, you've got the blacks and whites. These are very active, powerful things in their own right. This art ended up being kind of inspirations for the directions we wanted to go, rather than just using these default tokens. Again, this kind of art where you see, the air ring, symbol in the sky, the sheer power of these elemental rings. We wanted to kind of evoke that via the art style we used in our rings. So we held a design contest. Large number of professional and amateur designers submitting things. We had over 60 different designs submitted, and they were just all over the place. Beautiful designs, from every corner and every style. We've got 70s kind of album cover sort of style. We've got, icons that use animal totems to kind of help represent the elements. We've got coin token recommendations that break off of the ring itself to really give you the energy. Great stuff. In the end, we kind of had to, narrow it down, and it was actually very, very challenging. But we kind of used our design goals and design principles as a way to do that. So for starters, obviously, us, we wanted to focus on luxury, right? We wanted to be sure that whatever piece you're getting is turning heads. It feels beautiful. It feels like a piece of art in your hands. And I think that's kind of what we do. We try to do with our clan tokens, you may have seen, and we really try to do a lot. We're really working on a number of tokens in this area. It's a challenge. It's kind of an experimental area to see kind of how much interest there is. But so far, interest has been high, enjoying, the amount of support we're getting from the community on going this far with these kind of things. Again, we wanted a lot of energy in this, right? Like the fire and water rings there. You can almost feel the water splashing against you, the mist there in that ring of water picture there, right? We wanted to capture that and not be just flat rings. And we wanted to leverage color, right? We wanted to be dynamic, vibrant. I mean, the ring of air, it's white. Why is it, monocolor or duochromatic when you're looking at the tokens, when they could actually evoke the feeling of that element via the color. You can even see, other people are agreeing that they automatically think of colors when they're looking at these elements, and they kind of wish they were colored in a way, as Hunit there points out, that perhaps it would be better if the inner color be red and blue and the outer be the color of the element. Once you see the designs, you'll see that we use this kind of shiny inner enamel, red and blue, to kind of indicate whether it's political or military, while giving the element the ability to kind of set its color throughout. We also, similar to that, we also want to be sure there's instant recognition. The color does a whole lot of that, right? We want to be sure there's no confusion between the elements. The default tokens kind of let us down. You have the air and water tokens here, but then if you're a new player, some regular players, when they flip that air token over, it looks just like waves. It looks just like water. And so they can be confusing in play. And we definitely want to avoid that ambiguity. We've seen some other acrylic tokens that had that problem. And it is a challenge. Air and water, very different. And we went very specific directions that make them instantly recognizable. And obviously, we want them to be eye-catching. We want something that will draw attention on the table. We want something that stands out. We want the person 2 seats down from you to be looking over your game and being like, whoa, what's that over there? Our goal here is to evoke the 5 rings part of Legend of the 5 Rings. They shouldn't be just static cardboard stencils sitting on the table. They need to be live, dynamic. They need to be worth fighting over, right? They need to be worth warring over. They need the sort of things that decide the fate of Rokugan. And that's pretty much the direction we took. So now that you know where we're coming from, let's take a look at the rings. Our first coin here is the Fire Ring. Big fan of this coin. Obviously, it's inspired by the original artwork, but we've got a multi-layer design here, which adds a 3D aspect to this. Yellows and oranges and reds with licking flames all over a shiny gold background that gives it that radiance. Here we've chosen the color orange to help represent and differentiate from the reds of military battles and avoids confusion between the two. It's a beautiful coin. Next, we have another one of my favorites. This one is very clearly inspired by the original Earth image. This provides that same feel of the Earth solid mountain, along with the extra energy and power is exhibited there at the bottom with the crevasse opening up below you, that split earth kind of symbolizing just how powerful you are when you have the earth at your disposal. We've chosen brown and earthy tones here as a very natural fit for the earth ring. I really love how this one turned out with the shiny gold as serving as a sun in the background there. Really, really nice coin. Next up, we have the Water Ring. This one we went for a softer, lighter feel. Well, you've got a lot of energy here with multiple waves and a flowing ocean. You've got the mist floating off of those waves to kind of give you that alive, natural feel from the ocean. We've gone with very pretty whites and blues and light blues to kind of give you a nice combination there, but differentiate it from the sparkly blues and reds we use to indicate political and military battles. This one definitely has a good bit of gold lining that gives you kind of a glimmer pretty much from any angle. Though my favorite is probably this one, Void. We've taken the default, very similar inner black circle in the default Void. We placed it in the center of this ring, drawing a maelstrom of all the other elements into it. As planets and the like are pulled into that Void, you have this starburst of the event horizon as the Void kind of devours everything around it. It's a impressive piece. I love the artwork. The black enamel is super smooth and came out really nice. We got deep, rich purples to kind of set it apart from the colors of all the other elements. The mystery and darkness of Void is captured really well in this coin. Our final coin here is the Air Ring. This one, we've captured a bit of the purity and radiance of air and gone with more of a white and shiny gold motif. I'm really pleased with how the sun turned out in this one. When the light hits it just right, you've got a brilliant, bright sun shining over you, giving you the power of the skies at your disposal. Really happy how this one turned out with the swirling clouds. The white heart enamel looks especially good on these. And it's obviously impossible to confuse with the water like you would, say, the default rings. All of the rings together have a very similar feel. You've got the outer color, the inner color. They work incredibly well together on the table. The intent is to give you something really active and powerful that's worth fighting over, that's worth battling over, rather than the plain vanilla things. I really hope you like the designs. We spent a lot of time and a lot of work on them. I know they're not for everybody, but hopefully you appreciate them enough to realize that these would make excellent tournament prizes or collector's items.